What gives you that kind of confidence and self-belief?
Well, I don't know what I'm doing, but you don't know what you're doing, really. And you don't really know what you're doing.
Fuck no.
And whoever's listening to this doesn't really know what they're doing. Like, nobody knows what the fuck's going on. And if nobody knows what the fuck's going on, anybody can do anything and everything. And I literally scribbled this thing on a cocktail napkin and thought that was it. And then a couple weeks later, they came to my desk and were like, Warner's was giving it the tick. I was like, huh? And I was like, yeah, no, here's a budget of something they probably shouldn't have given me. And said, I'll fly to LA and you got to meet with all these camera houses and see who can actually construct this thing. We're going to build this camera for real. But then we shot an in-narrative piece for Suicide Squad. So instead of doing like a behind-the-scenes thing, we shot one of the main action sequences from the first-person view of a bunch of major characters. You can do absolutely anything. Just don't go, well, I feel like out of these options, I don't like any one of them. Which one do I hate the least? Stop and really ask yourself, what do you want to be doing? Like when you don't have to work, when you're completely alone and it's late at night and you can't sleep, what are you doing?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to Before the Money.
Before the money, baby, let's fucking go.
What's up, dudes? We are sitting here with Harrison Norris. He's a creative gentleman. He's a business owner. He's a director, stunt whiz. Fuck. There's so many titles that I could put in this intro.
Keep busy. Keep busy.
He keeps very busy. He's an avid traveler, very, very good conversationalist, and he's got some awesome stories.
Expectations low.
So, luckily, there's majority of the people are only listening to this and couldn't see that.
Thank God.
Yeah.
If you are just listening, head over to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice plug.
Check out. Yeah,
That was quick.
there we go. We getting good at this
You're on it.
nowadays. Yeah, look, episode 28. Let's go, baby.
28.
28.
How the fuck did we get here already? Hey, it's nuts. So, Harrison, it's a Saturday. You've just gotten back from a beautiful week away in sunny Cairns. Now, obviously, you're a man that works very hard. So what was it like getting away for the week and just relaxing for a second?
Rare.
Yeah.
But also, it's not like I've got work breathing down my neck or whatever else. It's like it's not
And
like
it's
someone's
passionate
hassling
work.
me. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel all the time like I'm really, really lucky because it's almost like I'm having too much fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It feels like it doesn't quite count.
It's a good
This
problem
is
to
like
have.
if I had a regular desk job, this is when I finished work and went home, what I'd want to be doing anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop, like someone to come tap me on the shoulder and be like, all right, it's been long enough.
Joke's over, buddy.
Get the real job now. So I'm busy as fuck, but it's all doing stuff that I would love to be doing.
On that topic, what is it that you spend your days doing?
So I'm writing near constantly.
Mm-hmm. Writing what?
Films, screenplays.
Sick.
But I've also written a full game recently, which may or may not go ahead.
Okay. And can you give us any idea what that game might be?
It's big.
Yeah.
Big long one. It's funnily enough, it's like fantasy, which is never ever been something I've been interested in. I've never been like an orcs and goblins. Yeah. But this was really fun to sort of come at something fantasy through the lens of someone that doesn't particularly like high fantasy and go, okay, well, how do we gritty this thing up? And it was a tie-in for a movie that's coming. Mm-hmm. But it's set as a prequel that happens all 400 years before the events of this film.
Yeah, okay.
But now there's question as to whether or not the film will go ahead, and maybe just the game will, maybe just the film will, maybe neither. But I ended up pre-writing this entire... There's hundreds and hundreds of pages of just this massive document designing this whole game, which was a really fun new experience because I'd never fully written a game before.
What does that game look like? Because obviously with some games, there's multiple different scenarios based on what the character does within either scenario. So what does that look like, and how the fuck do you even plan? I know we're diving straight into the deep end here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure we will give context, but that has just blown my mind.
There's a lot to keep track of, particularly the deeper you get in.
Yeah. So
it's really trying to set sort of a bunch of gateways where you can determine variables. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's not like everything's just playing in every direction. There's this and this and this. Yeah. And between them all this stuff can happen. Yeah. But when you get to each point, are you positive, neutral, or negative with this person? Are they alive or dead? Do you have X, yes or no? And if
Shit.
you can like split it into a series of variables, then you can sort of track it as a mind map instead of it just being a clusterfuck.
I have a question. I have a question. Saying that you weren't particularly someone that would write fantasy, do you have to worry about lore of certain species and stuff when
Yes
you're
and no.
writing something like that?
Yes and no. So like I love coming up with stuff, and I did have to dip into the movie itself was quite a straightforward revenge tale, so I had a lot of freedom to do really fun, weird stuff. And we do have to build lore, and that's something that I am excited for, because if people like it and want to engage more, why wouldn't you want to give them more world to engage with?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that can never be what's in the front seat. You know what I mean? First of all, it's got to be, when you pick up the game, is a minute-to-minute gameplay. Does it feel good every single second? Like, I don't care what Gobblefart did 400 years ago and I'm doing this for this prophecy. Like, that doesn't matter. Is it fun? Are you having fun every single second you're holding that controller? You get that core gameplay loop really, really solid. And then from there, it's, you know, you want your minute-to-minute story with your characters, the decision you're making, to be really, really interesting. Do I care about the other people I'm interacting with? Do I give a fuck what they would think about this thing that I'm doing? Am I scared of this person double-crossing me? Your immediate circle.
Yeah.
And then after that, it becomes the lore. You know, but they have to like the game first, and they have to care about their place in the world before they're any kind of interested in the rest of the world.
What else is going on? Yeah.
Wow, that's super interesting. So, what is it? First of all, what's the name of your company?
The virtual production stuff we're doing, that's Proxy Virtual Production.
Proxy. Awesome.
Proxi.
And I reckon let's jump back to what built Harrison Norris, because how old are you currently?
I'm 25 now.
25. Get fucked. Anyway, so 25, and we're about to hear a bunch of other cool stories. That's what I find super interesting about you. Like, I think I even said it to you last time we were together. It's great. Your success is awesome, but your life experiences are what really excites me.
Thanks, man.
You know, it's
nice.
super cool. You got a bunch of stories, and we're about to dive into that. So, what were you like back in school? You know, what were you like before you got out into the real world?
Not great. No, I was I finished school really early. Like I was young. Like I managed to graduate when I was still 15. So I spent most of high school just on the wrong side of puberty. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was a quiet kid to begin with. And you know, so like
And so why did you finish high school early?
Well, part of it was just we'd be traveling for films. Mm-hmm. So I sort of talked a little bit about games, and I didn't talk about anything else that I do day to day. But we're sort of outside of COVID particularly. Yeah. Traveling almost constantly non-stop for films. You know, it's 8 months here, then back for a couple of weeks, then 6 months to 8 months here, and then back for a couple of weeks. And so even when I was too young to actively be involved with those films myself, the family was still traveling, working on films. So we'd go with them, and we'd have like private tutors, homeschooling, whatever, to get through the curriculum. But because we didn't have a whole class of kids, it was just me, I could work through shit really quickly and just knock it out the way. And, you know, halfway through a school year, we'd be starting the next year's work. And I'd be getting, you know, the drop on it. Yeah. And then we'd come back, and occasionally they'd go, oh, shit, you should just skip this outright. Or I'd come back from Canada one time when I was quite young. And they were like, okay, well, he isn't going to fit in this intake, so let's just put him into the existing next intake halfway through. Mm-hmm. And so I managed to jump sort of bits and bobs of years in year 5 outright. And I managed to get out of year 12 when I was still 15. My whole goal was I wanted to finish university while I was still 18. Yeah. But then post-school, Mad Max came up, and I was like, am I going to say no to trying to like chase Mad Max as hard as I can, to say like, trust me, ladies, I swear this is very cool. I finished when I was 18. Ladies, where are you going? like no.
I promise it's cool.
I had to go surf a car.
Mad Max does have a bit more of a ring to it.
It does.
So when you were heading into Mad Max, so your family's in stunts, aren't they? Yeah, so the Norris family.
And stunts and more so action design now.
Action design, yeah. So when you first left high school, you were a stunt actor? Was that stunt double, I suppose you could call it?
Well, so we were Dad was always he was one of the last. He sort of bridged a generation of stuntmen between the old-fashioned, just pound a fifth of Jack and drive the mini bike through the glass and hope the money you get from this traveling supermarket show covers the hospital bill and you split the rest. Like old school stunties, and then the more modern school that we have now, where it's like, okay, well let's do the math. What proper equipment have we got here? What's going on? And so he sort of was straddling those generations. So he's got that fantastic lick of, oh, hey, just do it. Let's just get it done.
Yeah, he's got
but
the
he
grit.
also is incredibly caring about his whole team, needs everyone to make it home safe, and has an incredible understanding of the gear. So, he was always a stunt performer himself, but more so like a stunt coordinator and an action designer. And so he directs all action. So typically on films you have like a main unit and a second unit. Main unit shoots all your big meaty stuff, and to get it done in time, there's also a second unit that's shooting simultaneously to make sure that you catch all the, don't want to call it lesser stuff, but the stuff that first unit can afford to let go.
Yeah.
When we jump on a film...
So are they usually like a bit behind in terms of like schedule?
No, they're working at the same... Well, that's the whole idea, is that two scenes can be being shot at once, so the whole film doesn't take yonks. But typically when we're on a film, second unit just becomes action unit.
Yep.
And sort of any action whatsoever is all being largely shot by our would-be second unit, more so action unit.
Wow. So I've got a bit of a question, because for anyone that hasn't seen Mad Max, it's like in the desert, there's like big vehicle chases where people are hanging from like big poles above vehicles and stuff like that, and
trucks flipping everywhere. It's beautiful.
It's insane. So like was any of that like scary? Was there any points throughout filming that where you were scared you might injure yourself, or is it pretty well thought out now?
Oh, well, look, it's incredibly well thought out.
Yeah.
There's stuff I want to say that I can't say. No, it's incredibly well thought out. But even then, studios will literally put money aside in their budgets
for hospital bills.
Not hospital bills. Worse than hospital bills. No,
lawsuits.
You got to plan for it, because you've got stunts where someone could break a leg, and then you've got mainline stunts where if something goes wrong, somebody dies. And if you were doing multiple ones of those a day, 5 days, 6 days a week for months,
there's a high
what's
odds.
the fucking probability that nothing will ever go wrong?
Yeah.
And Mad Max was absolutely exceptional in the case that nobody could believe that everybody got out of that one. And obviously, you never plan that anyone isn't going to make it, but the studios do, and they budget for it.
You gotta have that insurance strap.
So it's as safe as it can possibly be, and everyone's job is to make it as safe as it can possibly be. But also, as can possibly be does not mean nothing can go wrong.
Yeah.
I used to work with an ex-stunty, emphasis on ex. He was saying to me that he was doing a stunt, like one of your, impact, and then you get pushed back to a wall and you've got all the harnesses and stuff pulling you into the wall. And he was saying on one of their takes, machine malfunctioned and pulled him to the wall way faster than it needed to, and kept pulling. And it was like trying to pull him through the wall. And he was saying he like shattered his entire body and spent close to a year in hospital, and now doesn't do it anymore because he can't move properly anymore. You can see it when he's walking. You can see the limb. You can see that he's all disfigured from this stunt that went wrong, because shit, it can.
And I mean, look, it can go wrong with people on the end too, but that's why I personally wildly favour anything that's actually controlled by a person and not a computer. Like, I've known of people that have been not okay and will never be okay again because somebody put the decimal point on the wrong side of a zero.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? In an air ram, and you just press go and it just bump. Well, if a person, you can see they're still travelling and they're going to hit the ground, someone on the rope can do something about it. They can put their back into it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
You've got the consciousness, like assessing the situation as it's happening.
You've got a set of eyeballs that can react.
Yeah, wow.
I this year had the privilege of working on a TV show set. They had
Which one?
God's Favorite Idiot.
Okay.
Down in Ballina. And they had some stunts going there, and like everybody knows, you hear a stuntman, you're like, fuck, that dude's hardcore. But when you see them in action, you see them working, you just get this whole other level of appreciation for what they're doing. Because holy fuck, I saw some bodies hit some shit, and like I'm sitting there listening to impacts and watching it like, is she okay?
You just don't know other stunties, man. Most of the stunties I know, I'm like, yep, they deserve that. Hit him again.
One more time.
It's just incredible because like you see these big impacts and stuff like and they just get up and go again, and they're sweet every time. They're like, oh, do you need me to go again? I'm like, dude, I'd be like, holy fuck.
No, I've got incredible respect for it. Like but I mean, you just got to. That's what you're there for, right?
Yeah, 100%. So, like, obviously, we've got a lot of ground to cover.
We
tonight.
do.
So, you've told me stories like your heart really lies in kind of writing, doesn't it?
Largely, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I want to be making stuff, putting it out, and hoping that people enjoy it. And that can be any medium. That can be songs. It can be film. It can a game now, I guess.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it can be anything at all. I just want to be outputting things that ideally mean something to people.
And when you're making something, because like you said, you just mentioned a couple of avenues you're in. When you're making something that's going out to the world, what are you thinking of? Like, are you putting yourself in the shoes of the audience and saying, like, what are their fantasies, or like, how do they view the world? Is that how you go about it, or are you wanting to add your kind of perspective for that piece of content, whatever you're making?
It's not that you don't respect what they might think is cool. Obviously, you want to do things that they're thinking is cool. But you also can't sit down with a piece of blank paper and be like, now, what would people think is cool?
Yeah.
Jet skis, one. Like, you kind of got to... For me, anytime I'm coming up with something, I can sort of feel an idea forming before it's completely solid. And sometimes something that I think is separate ideas becomes one thing, or something that I think is maybe just a little scrap will build out really enormously. But anything that I write, I try and build as a whole arc. So I'm trying to find, first of all, it's like, what's that world? I have to have some dynamic or something that I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I have to believe in that and think that that's sick. And then I go, okay, that's a really, really cool world. What is the most extreme thing that could happen in that world? Okay, wait, let's do one right now.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Now this is a half pulling this out my ass because this is something that I'm playing with now. But it's so you go, okay, so there's like the reserves that you can sign up to be on now.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Military reserves?
Yeah, because a bunch of the stunties are signed on for that.
Yeah.
You get 10K pocket money for sitting around and doing nothing. But if Australia goes to war, tough tits, you gotta go.
Yeah.
And you're right up there.
Which we might be going to war with China soon.
So you're banking on that, hoping that it doesn't happen, but if it does, you got no choice.
Yep.
So I was thinking, well, fuck, that isn't that interesting. So you go, okay, imagine a world where you did something, really cyberpunky. Everyone's got implants and upgrades and whatever else. Imagine if you were dead broke, you could sign yourself over so that any time a big crime over a certain size is happening near you, police could jack into your body and drive it to stop any criminals nearby. And hopefully you'll never get picked. But you're getting mad money in the meantime.
Yeah.
But if something goes down near you, you're just a passenger looking out your eyes as all this other shit happens,
like,
and you might die.
Have you seen that movie with Jared Butler, Gamer?
Yeah.
It's like that. I really fucking like that for that idea. Like, they're all convicts and stuff, but then they can be used by a gamer to control their body, play their games. So you're like playing COD, but it's an actual fucking dude.
Yeah.
Person, really.
But so then you say, okay, so that's a cool world.
Yeah.
I like that world, or I'm not interested in that world. But if you are interested in that world, then you go, okay,
You explore it further.
what is the most extreme thing that could happen in that world? What's the wildest possible thing? And what is the saddest, or the biggest emotion, the saddest you could possibly be about something, or the most happy you could possibly be? And you sort of try and figure out, okay, what is the biggest thing that could happen in this world? What's the end point? What's the absolute emotional peak? You create that, and then you work your way backwards from that. And everything from the start is trying to build all the pieces together so that big finish is going to hit as hard as it possibly can. So I sort of build that arc, and then I start writing somewhere that excites me in the middle, right all the way to the end, go back and fill in the start to set up the end as best as possible, reach the middle and realize that everything I did was shit, and then I redo the end again.
Yeah.
And then I'm back at the start again, and you rewrite, and eventually it's not trash.
That's how it works with everything. I feel like that's the way creative expression works. So I do the same thing every time I sit down to design something, you know? You start off with a particular idea, and by the end, it looks nothing like the start. So you go back and redo the start. Then before you know it, the whole thing's like...
It's different again.
Completely
It's
different.
Like different layers of evolution.
But you got to build platforms to jump off to your next like string of ideas, I think, you know? Because it's interesting, yeah. Sorry?
Once you start playing with that stuff, films, whatever else, they can really write themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They can completely write themselves. So say, for this idea, you've got police or a special, not just regular police, a special force of them controlling people. Well, then we have to know someone on both sides. We have to have somebody that's really down on their luck, having a tough time just getting by, and you've got to have somebody that's controlling them. Mm-hmm. You put them together, okay, well, how do we shake it up? How do we break this world?
Where's the corruption in between?
Exactly. Okay, so great. Then you say corruption. Perfect. So then this unit is completely unconcerned with human life. Anyone that they jump into, they'll run around a corner and just get shot and be like, oh, fuck, there's another one. Jump into a new body. Mm. So there's a huge body count because they can throw themselves into any issue without fear of death. So you could say, okay, so you got someone in there, say she's a woman, and she's our main character we're following on that side. She doesn't like that. She feels some kind of way about that, but she's got no real way to stop that. You got a guy that she's jumping into and controlling, say... Okay, so then you can say, okay, so this is the world. How do you turn that world on its head? Mm-hmm. Well, lucky us, we built this thing around the idea of this one single concept. So you flip that concept on its head. Someone has the ability to sever that or turn it off. There are terrorists, and they've built these little EMP bombs that any time that they set them off, anyone that's connected to the person, they'll get their brain fried. So all of a sudden... oh, this untouchable cop side have got something to fear as well. And that's drama. That's interesting.
What if you got like some of those cops who are controlling other people's bodies start committing crimes with those bodies?
Possibly.
Oh.
You have a psycho. So what you do is like you just sit and you explore this world. You think of all the cool stuff you can possibly do. And then once you've got an idea, you whittle down, narrow down, chop all the shit off. But you explore first, and then you narrow, and then it's an arc. Anyway, sorry, I don't know why I went back to that.
No, that makes perfect sense, and I'm glad you deconstructed it like that.
I'm stoked for this story to come out. I'm in.
Legit, it sounds really cool.
We'll write it in the break.
Over cocktails. Sounds good. So how does that kind of creativity channel over into being a business owner? Because I know lots of people that can be amazing at their craft or, you know, amazing at art, for instance, but when it comes to managing a team or building a business and, you know, sales meetings, all that kind of stuff, how do you go? Are you very much, do you find yourself to be like a good manager or like...
There's two different parts to that. Number one is raw business side of it.
Yeah.
That's not my strong suit. It's something that I engage with because, I mean, obviously you can't not.
Yeah, there's no way around it.
But there's no passion there for me. Mm-hmm. Like, I love the communication. I love the pitch process. I love putting on these big presentations. I love meeting with people and sort of making these things happen. I love being able to spin something and just get it through. Like, I think that's really fun to personally engage. I love working with a team that are way more clever than I am in a bunch of different ways and pulling this from this person, and making sure everyone's all working together and feeling good. Like, I love that. Yeah. So if you're talking about working with people, I love that. If you're talking about the raw numbers and business and whatever side, I know that that's where I'm nowhere near as strong, and I'm really lucky that I'm a co-founder of Proxy, not a sole owner.
Yeah, amazing. So
we can cover. We can cover each other.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how it should be, you know. And for the longest time, I've been really wanting some kind of partnership in Anarchy, and luckily, like, this group that we're building together now has kind of given me that kind of benefit without having to give over any stakes in the company, luckily. But that's the thing, like, I know my strengths in certain areas. Like, I'm a good creative, and I do find business really, really enjoyable. But when it comes down to analytical tasks like the numbers and, you know, specifically when it comes to marketing, like, I love the creative side of marketing. I love the psychology side of marketing.
Yep.
But when it comes down to the, all right, this is our cost per acquisition, all those kind of like numbers and spreadsheets and all that kind of shit, the stuff that's very important and analytical, I'm like, push that down the to-do list. You know?
Yeah, no,
It's funny that it translates across so many different industries too, because like I find myself in the same place with music. Like I'm a creative guy. I love writing songs. I love playing songs, singing them, thinking of all these creative ideas. But then when it actually comes to, all right, we need to be talking to these people so we can get played here, and these people so we can get played here, and like the business side of it, because everything is a business.
See, I'll do politics. I'll do politics. Politics are different from business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also, maybe it's a separate discussion I'm taking it to here. But like I'm very, very comfortable pitching and doing all that sort of stuff. But I also, again, so this is sort of becoming a separate discussion. That's the weird thing with music for me is that I've started doing music now almost as a holiday from the rest of it. Because, you stare at the thing, and if something isn't working, you start to fucking beat your head against the desk and you're freaking out about it. So to keep myself productive, I know that I'm a horrible procrastinator. But if I can make sure that I'm always procrastinating with something productive, I'm actually procrastinating for one project with another thing that's going to help me.
Yeah.
So music's sort of been this really fantastic holiday, right? It doesn't take 8 months to write something and slowly turn it around, and it doesn't matter if you've done your absolute best, but then a couple people down the chain, or some currency changed value elsewhere at the wrong time and toppled the whole thing. You cannot guarantee the existence of a film as one person ever. It's a massive machine with a lot of moving parts. While with music, I can be like, okay, I can go in and in a couple sessions the song's done.
Yeah.
And if it's shit, but it's shit off my own back. Or maybe it's really good, but you can do that. It's this thing that you can control and get out quickly.
Go
ahead.
Is very musically inclined too. I've just got to interject a little story here. So we had a before the money party here. If you were here, we fuck with you. Thank you for coming. There'll be more of them. But we were all in this room having a jam. We had Peach for some of the boys from Sting and Rogers in here. Very musically inclined people, and we got a mic set up, and up you jump, and I was like, all right, I saw you came up to the mic, I was like, I'm curious to see where this is going, and holy fuck, you blew everybody in this room
Thank you,
away.
man. That's sweet.
Holy shit. I walked out like, bro,
he did.
Do you hear the
came and
motherfucker?
grabbed me.
I was like, do you hear the guy in the purple fucking hoodie? Holy shit.
Thanks, man.
Oh, fucking awesome, bro.
Thank
This is
you,
really
dude.
cool shit.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I'm at this weird crossroads now where I realize that if I want it to be any kind of successful, I have to take it seriously. And I have to network and politic and do all of that. And it's not that there's any resistance to networking or politicking, but it's kind of been this gorgeous little creative outlet that's a holiday from being on. And now it's going well enough that it's like, okay, like if you're going to take it, you can't half-ass it. You either do it or you don't do it. So you've got to do it, but then it's like taking on it's becoming a whole separate career strand again, and I'm already juggling so many fucking balls, you know?
It's hard with music too, because like, as well as the business, you've also got image as well.
100%.
That's so important in the music space.
enormously.
So much of it.
You can be the best singer in the world, but if you don't have a stage presence, or you don't have
Perception's everything.
Brand.
personality that people want to follow, like you,
But that's what
won't
it is.
go
People
too
don't
far.
have time to get to know, hi, I'm Harrison and I really like this. You know what I mean? Like at first glance,
They just
it's
gotta
all
see it.
characters. And so if you're talking to any sort of management person, they're always looking for the est. You have to be an est. You have to be the funny est. You need to be the loud est. You need to be the baddest. You need to be something easily and immediately distilled. So people go, I fuck with that. And then when they deep dive, they find there's more depth there. You got more catalog. You got more whatever else. And I'm not resistant to that. But I don't know. I guess I'm kind of coming up on that threshold now, where it's between something that's been an outlet and something that, you know, if I want to do it, it's got to actually be work and not just fun as well.
Exactly.
So we've got to head to the interlude, and then let's jump into maybe some of your stories, the kind of things you've directed on, and I also want to chat about the 3D games.
Is this the interlude wrap up right now, or are we squeezing one more out?
We're giving the people the little lowdown of what they're in
What's
for,
going to
so
come.
stick around. For the money, baby. Let's fucking go.
Come on, we'll see you guys in a second. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for waiting around the brief interlude. We went on a bit of adventure, but for you, it was just a matter of seconds, so I appreciate it nonetheless.
You missed out.
You really did miss out.
Yeah, you fucked up, guys.
Shout out,
Where
Miami
were you?
Marquetta.
Where were you?
So, you've taken on a lot of responsibility at a young age, and what gives you that kind of belief within yourself to say, hey, I can take on something that I don't necessarily know what the outcome's going to be, but I'm confident in myself that I can make it happen? What gives you that kind of confidence and self-belief?
Well, I don't know what I'm doing, but you don't know what you're doing, really. And you don't really know what you're doing.
Fuck no.
And whoever's listening to this doesn't really know what they're doing. Like, we live so much time thinking there's like, like adults or experts.
Yeah.
We were like kids and we thought adults knew what was going on. We grew up, now we realize that no one had any idea what the fuck they were doing the
Everyone's
whole time.
winging
They just
it.
had a great poker face. It's exactly the same thing now. Any field that you enter, and that's not to say that there isn't knowledge you have to learn. You can't fucking cowboy your way through shit. You do have to do the work. But there's no such thing as like the God, like, oh, there is. But you shouldn't come into a new field and have this crazy imposter syndrome that you don't know what's going on, but everyone else does. What the fuck are you doing here? How are you going to reach that level? Nobody knows what the fuck's going on. And if nobody knows what the fuck's going on, anybody can do anything and everything. But like, there's, and this is digressing and going to a separate thing, so I'm going to try not to. But
no,
like,
go for your life.
the smarter solutions as well are always the simplest. Like, I'll remember we were doing previews for this film. I'll skim a lot of this. I'm not sure what I can and can't say. We were doing previews for this film, and we had these rats that needed to be able to climb over the top of each other.
You're telling me a little bit about this, yeah.
So, I've told you this one. So we were trying to basically write all these incredible AI scripts that these intelligent rats could drive themselves digitally without needing to be controlled, because there are thousands of them.
Was this in Suicide Squad?
What? No, yes, this was the Suicide Squad. So we were doing a sequence where we had all these rats. And we were trying to script so that they would be able to detect the back of another rat and then climb over it intelligently while they're running and keeping pace. What could they climb? What couldn't they? And for days, these rats were just fucking up, and we couldn't directly control any of them. We were trying to figure it. We had a huge deadline, and then literally the simplest solution is always the most childlike. I was looking at a door wedge, and I'd been watching some Crusty Demons videos on my phone, and I was like, what if the rats were just ramps?
Yeah.
Then
Then
they
they
would
would go over each
you
other.
don't need to write anything fucking intelligent. You attach an invisible ramp to the back of every rat, and anytime a rat runs up the back, it just ramps off. And we did it, and first try, it was fucked. The air was black with rats. They were ramping off each other a million
Crusty
miles an
demon
hour.
rats.
Block out the sun with rats. But take two fucking worked. And it's
Wow.
like every expert in the room is running complex math formulas. And then it's like, let's stick a fucking invisible ramp on them. And that's what solves the problem. You know what I mean? There's no, like, don't get caught up in the hype of what an expert is. You're valid. If you're there and you want to participate and you care about it, your ideas don't have to be entirely informed to be valid, and you'll learn.
And sometimes it's that ignorance that allows you to cut through the bullshit and get the real answer as well.
Yeah.
And that's why we get these like amazing innovations in the in-between generations, because like things have been done a certain way for so long, it just takes a fresh perspective to come and go, well, that's the obvious solution, you know?
Yeah.
But people get trapped in this way of doing things. And I feel like people get trapped in their overthinking of just life in general, you know? It's so easy for like a task that could be like, say for instance, I'll just put it in context for my scenario. Like when I first started, building a website or, you know, running a Facebook ad campaign was, I had to think about it for a week. I had to plan it. I had to, you know, but as soon as I got comfortable within myself to just say, sit down and do it, it's a fucking an hour-long task. But by complicating it and adding all these layers of complexity, you know, you lose sight of what it is you're actually trying to achieve. And you were talking a little bit about outdoors, and I want to touch on this because, like I said in the beginning, I really admire your perspective on life. So, one of the things
Thank you.
Pleasure. One of the things I find a little bit disturbing in our youth, or like just in humans in general, is this lack of kind of self-belief. And I think it comes from society adding unnecessary pressure onto people that are maybe trying to do things a little bit different. So have you encountered, like, say, I don't know, peer pressure to follow a normal path at all, or like?
Oh, I mean, yeah. Look, even without peer pressure, I mean, people are pack animals. We generally want to fit in.
Yeah.
You know, but no. Look, more to the point, I think we've got some fucked up tall poppy syndrome here in Australia, right? Like more so than a lot of other places that I've been.
I've heard that a lot.
If someone's really swinging for something quite out there, the easiest thing to do is, doesn't even have to be entirely insidious. The easiest thing to do is crack a joke. Oh, Scotty thinks he's a rapper now. Yeah, fucking all right, mate. But it's constant in a hostile, active and a passive sense. It's constantly undercutting. And so people want to distance themselves from any humiliation, and all of a sudden it becomes cool not to try.
Yeah.
Like, when the fuck did it become cool not to give a shit?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, bro.
Give all the shits. Like, I don't care if you try and you fuck it up. If you fall down 7 times, get up 8, that's dope because you really care about something.
But if you're doing it for something you're passionate about, it doesn't matter, because every little failure you come across is like, oh, now I know what not to do. That's exciting.
Yeah.
You know?
And look, honestly, this is, again, take it way over to something we haven't even touched yet, the whole VR side.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I learn over there is the louder someone is telling you that you can't do something, the louder and the more negative things they have to say, the sooner that person is to dropping off the end of the conveyor belt.
Yep.
The bigger their negative soapbox, the sooner that person's going to fucking go, you can't do this, and this doesn't work, and this won't that. They're the first people to be the fuck out of touch. You know what I mean? It's so full of...
They're locked in a way of thinking.
The louder someone's trying to tell you exactly the way something should be, the sooner they are going to be completely stagnant. And I would always rather be uncomfortable but improving. You know what I mean? Like, you could be at any point, like, you're a smart guy.
I try to be.
No, but like, you've got this clothing brand going on. You're putting all this together. Like, at any point, you could put your feet up and you could say, I'm just going to be a really big fish in a small pond. And you could build yourself a little domain, and you could be king shit in that. And you could surround yourself with people that would never challenge you, and you'd feel like the man, but you'd also stop growing. Or you can always be the dumbest guy in the room, but everyone in that room drags your level up. So then you can get into another room, you explore this, you can explore that. And I would always rather be, the smallest fish but growing.
That's it. It's a game of levels, really, isn't it?
Because I mean, then you run into the people that were telling you what you couldn't do, and they're still struggling with something that you surpassed 3 things ago.
Yeah.
Well, not that you surpass. Everything's a process. You never master anything.
Yeah.
But
no, I get that.
you get what I'm saying.
And you touched on VR, so I think we want to give a little bit more context to that. So
that's a whole other rabbit hole.
That is a whole nother rabbit hole. And how are we going for time? We've got 14 minutes, and we'll go into a third section. Fuck it.
Okay. Wow.
We'll go into a third section. You're worth it. So how did you even, like, and take it back as far as the story needs, how did you first get into the world of VR?
Okay.
Because I remember you directed a film of some kind that kind of got you in the room with certain people.
Yeah, it goes even before that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Let me go from. I was just always really interested in VR.
Yeah.
Right. I thought it was really, really interesting. I thought it was.
So that's virtual reality for anyone that's not familiar.
So that's where you
live under a rock.
That's if you put on a headset and you look around. This is actually important to clarify. You look all around you. VR blacks you out first. Takes everything back to raw nothing, black. And then whether it's a film, whether it's a game, it's entirely generating something around you, 360 degrees. AR, augmented reality, something very different. That's where you wear glasses and things will pop up over it. Something will jump out of a playing card. You'll have information readouts on shit. You might be able to get the weather while you're walking down the street. Ads will pop off.
So they're a mesh with reality.
Yeah, but that's a very different thing to VR. And you'd be surprised at what a fucking horrible pain in the ass that was. Because we'd travel internationally for these film festivals. We'd fly out and they'd be doing AR/VR panels. So they're both 2 letters and half those letters are R. But they're completely separate things. And every single panel devolved into which is better when they're literally fucking different entire thing. Like, would you rather, you know, an apple or a razor blade? Like, I'm going to use them for different things.
Yeah. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
But we digress.
Yeah, sorry, yes. So, I was always really, really interested in VR. And then I had a short film that screened over at Sundance, which was like connected to Sundance as like sort of a smaller, rowdier thing. So I was out there and I got to hop between Slamdance and Sundance itself. And while I was there, I slipped over to Sundance had this New Frontier section. And it was all like brand new tech stuff. So like branching narrative things and whole full body experiences and just anything that was sort of pushing a technical envelope.
Like when you say full body experience, would that be...
Yeah. So the big ticket that year was VR. There was a lot of VR. And I went in there thrilled. I'm like, this is Sundance. This is the pointy end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to see the best VR. And I went there, and it's not to say that it was all bad. Some stuff had merit, but a lot of it were tech demos. You know, it was like, hey, they had one sort of cool idea, and you got to experience that, and then what's next? Nothing. There's no substance. There's no anything. It's like, how cool would it be if you were a bird? Okay, tight. Like, what's next? That's it. Yeah. There was no depth. There was no character. There was nowhere really further to take it. It was like, that was neat. Want to do it again? Oh, I'm all right. I don't think I'd line up again. You know what I mean? Like, nothing was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And so I still really, really believed in VR. And so I talked with a bunch of people over there about being able to, like, subcontract VR shooting rigs and this and that. And I went to Guy, which is I'm going to call his dad, but I'm going to call him Guy because I'm so used to we work together. Like, no one wants to be like, so anyway, I was talking to Dad. They're like, fucking who?
Yeah.
or worst of all, you become the guy that's, you know, knows that. Yeah. So when I say Guy, it's love him to bits. It's not like a weird alienation thing. I'm just so used to calling him Guy. But the guy was like, we got to get into this VR. There's incredible stuff to be done that just isn't being done. We can do it. And he goes, look, maybe if you can write me something kind of interesting, like we'll take a look at it and see if you really believe in it. So in the meantime, we're on set for Suicide Squad 1 over in Toronto. And I start spotting a VR camera on set, but it's an underwater rig on a tripod. Yeah, okay. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because I recognized it was one of the exact rigs that I looked at Sundance. And I start trying to see who's operating it. No one. So I'll camp up and I'll try and watch this thing for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Or you can't be on set for 15 minutes doing nothing. So I'd have to walk somewhere else and deal with something. And the second I came back 2 minutes later, it was gone. It's like somebody knew that I was watching it. It's like, what the fuck is going on? So I go to Guy. I'm like, there's a VR camera on set already. He goes, no, there isn't. I go, yes. Yes, there is. There's a VR camera on set. What's going on? Anyway, one thing leads to another. I've got to skim a bit of this so I don't take too long. I had this whole thing written that was a multiplayer Prison Break. So you'd watch this virtual experience at the same. You guys have both put on headsets, and you'd be each side of like a movie that was non-officially interactive, but breaking each other out of prison. But we were working with this gaze-based stuff. So back in uni, we were like gutting webcams and 3D printing like shitty Oakley glasses with like brackets on them to point the infrared things at your eyeball. And we were doing like simple eye tracking stuff and watching all these trailers and figuring out, well, how did they most effectively lead the human eye? Like the same way that a magician would with sleight of hand, but for film. And really good directors have exact mastery where the audience is going to be looking at all times. So I got really, really into that and all gaze leading. And then afterwards, I thought, well, what about when you give them a choice? How do you do choices without people realizing? So we started writing these sort of programs in the back that would keep a tally of what time you spent looking where. So say you're watching a horror film. You're sprinting down a hallway. There's a fork left and a fork right. If you look to the left 49% of the time and the right 51% of the time, then there's going to be a seamless edit that you don't even know was an edit. Your character runs to the right. He just seems to always be picking what you would be doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you were controlling this thing without even realizing it. So you finish this horror film and you talk to me and go, oh my God. The scariest part was when I was hiding in the cupboard upstairs with the scissors waiting for the killer to turn his back. And I go, I have no idea what the fuck you were talking about. I wasn't holding any controllers, and I was hiding under the kitchen table, and I got my head stomped on.
Yeah,
and neither one of us have made a conscious choice. We've watched a completely separate film. So I was writing that as a prison break, but with two people keeping it perfectly timed. So you could make whatever decision, and that would mean that, you know, that your position was updated and the other one's edit. So it was like just shooting a lot of stuff and then structuring it.
That's like some Black Mirror level stuff.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to put together. But we were going to do this thing. So then we pitched it to Chuck, or Charles Roven. He was one of the big producers. He sort of handles their DC stuff with Warner Brothers and Atlas. But so we took it to him to say, like, hey, can we use some of the prison sets before you guys tear them down, as long as we don't have any identifier marks? Would that be okay? And instead of saying, like, yeah or no, they go, wait a minute, VR. And so then I'm at my desk. I go to the bathroom. I leave my phone on the desk. This is a day later. I come back to my desk, and there's 6 people standing around it. My phone is still buzzing on my desk with like 8 missed calls. I said, I'm like, what's going on? They're like, what do you know about VR? I'm like, what do you mean, what do I know about VR?
It's like this Secret Service.
You're coming with us, sir. No. But turns out that they'd taken Guy to this meeting and then being like, okay, so low key, we're already shooting VR on Suicide Squad. He goes, oh my God, Harrison told me. Yeah. And they're like, what? Who's Harrison? He goes, yeah, my son. Why are you shooting with an underwater rig? They're like, we're what? Yeah. And so then they came to scoop me up, and I started advise. So that they had the EPK team, who are a bunch of very talented guys, but their whole job was, you know, behind the scenes and documentation. They had no experience with VR, and they were like, this is your guys' problem now. So they were very clever guys that were doing their best with this completely unfamiliar tech. So then I got assigned to sort of consult and help with this sort of secret VR department that no one could know was really a thing. And we talk about it, but VR at the time was very limited. You know what I mean? You could only get between sort of 4 to 7 feet from the subject. So it was all long shot. Yeah. Imagine watching your favorite movie, but the entire thing, you have to see their full body at all times. You can't cut in for any emotion. The camera can't move or someone's going to get sick. You're going to make terrible content. So then you could have something that would patch one of those things, but it was like medications. It'd fix something and open up another problem. So you get another medication for that, which opens up another problem. And all of a sudden you were spending tens of thousands of dollars on a hypothetical rig that still had problems. Yeah. That weren't problems for the reason that you built it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's like Frankenstein.
Yeah. So then I started pitching literally just on a cocktail napkin, which I've seen a bit of VR. If you were to do this, what if you did this? And basically call the process oversampling, where you capture an insane amount of information to the point that it's redundant. Because, okay, hang on. Let's, you ready to do some visual learning?
Yeah, let's do it.
Watch this.
At this point, you definitely need to switch over to the YouTube channel.
Okay, so I'm going to hold these 2 glasses out for you. Get down eye level with those glasses.
All right.
And move your head left and right. Mm-hmm. You notice that one of those glasses is moving faster than the other?
Yes, I do.
That's parallax.
Parallax? I've heard that word before.
So it's like if you're looking out your car window,
yeah,
street signs are going to whip right past you, but the mountains are moving
because they're close.
Slow. Exactly, right? But we're so used to seeing that with our own 2 eyes, right? Mm-hmm. What happens if you could view parallax at slightly the wrong angle? What if you had that level of parallax, but your head was turned and still saw that? Yeah. Because it's a series of cameras all pointing outwards. This one's facing here, this one's facing here, this one's facing here. At some point, and if you're close to the camera, it's seeing very similar things like your 2 eyes. Yeah. But once something's 8 feet away, those 2 cameras have a completely different fucking parallax.
Yeah, because it's a way as it gets further away, the
gets
gap
wider
is bigger.
And wider and wider. Yep. And what happens when you're eyeballing that fucking gap, and that's the distance that a person has to be at? Yeah. You get all kinds of fucked up geometry, and then if someone comes down that gap toward the camera, you've got an arm that looks like it's fucking split into 3 separate pieces. It looks like trash.
Yeah, true.
So I was like, well, what if you got a ridiculous redundant amount of cameras specifically to shoot those gaps, that you're using entirely as reference to digitally rebuild large parts of later.
So the cameras that you're using to shoot those gaps, are they the same quality as the main cameras?
Yeah, but it's basically just a new method that no one had done before.
Yeah.
And I literally scribbled this thing on a cocktail napkin and thought that was it. And then a couple weeks later, they came to my desk and were like, Warner's has given it the tick. I was like, huh? And I was like, yeah, no, here's a budget of something they probably shouldn't have given me. And said, I'll fly to LA and you got to meet with all these camera houses and see who can actually construct this thing. We're going to build this camera for real.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. So went out there and had the meetings, found a place that was really fantastic. They were called Radiant Images. They're still around today. They're fantastic. And basically just went, look, I'm no engineer. I'm a glorified ideas guy. I know how this thing should work, but I can't put it together myself. But I can tell you what it needs to be.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I pay you a bunch of money for something that you knew wasn't going to work. Best case scenario, we've done something that everyone says we can't. Yeah. And we did it. We built the first ever VR camera ever that you could get physically within inches of. Back then it was 4 to 7 feet. You could get inches from this thing. Yeah. And it wasn't a tripod. It was mountable on a person. It was braced off their chest and fit around their head like a diving bell, or there was a non-mounted first-person version. Mm-hmm. And we built this thing. God, I need to figure out what I can say this next part.
Shit. Well, what if that's a little bit of a pause? I might reset the cameras because we're about to end that interlude. Fuck. We haven't said anything the last 25 minutes because I'm just enthralled in this story.
I shouldn't have been so rapid.
No, 100%. 100%.
I always say the best episodes are the ones that we speak the least in.
No, it's not a very interesting story though. I'm talking about like technical shit. So this camera here and this is the parallax.
No, it's interesting because it's stuff that, I haven't heard about from anyone other than you. So
never have I sat before with somebody and talked me so in depth about how a camera and a new kind of camera and the creation of a new kind of camera. Yeah, look.
Yeah, I'm going to reset the camera.
That's generous of you.
I'm not saying anything in the next section either.
All right, hot and rolling. Just had to reset the cameras. Sorry, guys. As you were, my lord.
No, I'll wrap this thing up real quick. My lord, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So essentially, we'd finished this camera, and it was this groundbreaking thing, but no one really cared or gave a shit that it was groundbreaking because it took me 20 minutes to explain to you that it's groundbreaking, and a lot of people don't have time for that. They're like fucking nerds, and that's it. But then we shot an in-narrative piece for Suicide Squad. So instead of doing like a behind-the-scenes thing, we shot one of the main action sequences from the first-person view of a bunch of major characters. So you could watch the sort of cubicle fight from the eyes of Deadshot, Boomerang, and Harley Quinn in full 360 and look around as you were clubbing someone with a bat. Wow. And we shot it, and they took it to Comic-Con. And I'll never forget, that was the first time I'd ever been to Comic-Con. It wasn't even main hall, it was outside. And I was walking up to Comic-Con, and there was a line, and I knew that they were going crazy for this stuff over at Comic-Con, but I hadn't been myself. And I remember walking past this line that went for 8.5 blocks that was 3 people thick. And I'm walking out of this thing being like, geez, these fucking nerds. What are they waiting for at the end of this thing? And we got to the end and realized that it was the line for our VR experience.
Wow.
Oh.
And it was one of the wildest fucking mental whiplashes I've ever done. I was like, what? So they took the Hard Rock Hotel in San Diego and gave it a full conversion for $2 million to look like Bell Rev Penitentiary, the prison.
Oh, true.
And the crown jewel was that they had these 49 headsets screening the thing just on loop, 49 people at a time. Sit, watch.
And was there much activity for the watcher, or were they just kind of in
they were literally just sitting, watching. Because but it was like, we did all this stuff to make sure that it was actually watchable.
Yeah.
So there's all these little theories like the cockpit effect, for example. So like if I have a VR experience where I put the headset on you and then the character's running down the street, you're going to feel like you're standing still, the world's moving out underneath you, and you're going to feel sick or fall over or, at the very least, just be pulled out of the experience.
Yeah.
Right? But the second we do what's called the cockpit effect. If we put a car around you, you understand that you are inside a vehicle and that vehicle's moving through space. If I put a set of bike handlebars just up in front of you, you will not be motion sick because you are on an object that's moving.
The fucking brain is a trip, bro.
The world isn't moving underneath you. You're on a thing, and that thing's moving forward. So it was a matter of like shooting it really carefully to make sure that Harley always had her bat and rah. So you had a
something
physical,
to ground you.
You had a physical presence. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's
so
really
they didn't have to interact. It was just watching, but it was hairy to make sure we did it right.
Yeah. Wow. And what happened to kind of VR after that? Like, is it gotten much more ground?
Look, I think that VR is wildly fucking untapped. There are still incredible things you can do in that space. One of the biggest strategies we had is I was attached to co-direct with another very talented gentleman. We're going to split it down the middle. An official continuation of The Omen for Fox in VR.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know how much I can say about that script, but it was fucking brilliant. Mm-hmm. It was brilliant. The storytelling there and the places we could branch that story and the horrifying things we could do were amazing. And I would love to do that. But essentially, VR got fucked up because of, first of all, a high barrier to entry and then a complete lack of curation. You know what I mean? Like if you want to watch something, if you turn on Netflix, it's a promise that everything on Netflix will at least be in focus and you'll be able to hear it. Mm-hmm. There's a base guarantee of quality.
Yeah.
There's a shitty part of Netflix, but it's all in focus.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, there is a minimum, like...
There's a minimum bar to entry. Yeah. While with VR, there was no curation. Anybody could make anything and put it up on YouTube. Or on, the video app as a free download, or maybe they'd charge $2 or whatever else. So what people were doing is they were going out and there was no Netflix. It was just Wild West, early days of YouTube sort of thing. Or free downloads. And so people would go out and they'd spend $600, $1,000 more on a crazy VR headset and come home and be like, okay, I can pay $30 for 15 minutes of really good content. Why would I do that? Yeah. I can watch these 400 experiences that are free. So then they watch one experience, trash, one it's trash, there's no curation, 10 experiences in that are fucking horrible because anyone and their grandmother can make one. They go, ugh. They don't say, oh, wow, that was 10 really bad films. They go, wow, VR is really bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And,
yeah, true.
And also making good content is expensive, particularly when you're breaking new technical ground. And not many people had the foresight to do stuff as a loss leader. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these things aren't going to make you money on film number one, but it's about planting a flag in the sand to say, hey, we're the people that make good content. Yeah. So if you roll out...
Bring awareness to the
if medium. You roll out Anarchy VR... You want to download Anarchy VR as the Netflix of VR because you know that everything on Anarchy VR is to a certain standard. The first few films, you're going to lose money building that network, but you are going to get that back with the third one. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you've done it right and you've got an audience, and no one had the guts to to do a loss leader, except for one very, very clever gentleman who was just about to do it at Warner Brothers, who I don't know if I can name. Who then, right before he actioned a bunch of very clever things, got poached by DreamWorks. Ooh. And then they had him doing other stuff over there. But in another world.
Yeah, well, and it's like that as well. It's just like, it takes the first person to really stick their neck out and, get the ball moving in a particular industry.
No one wants to have that first mover disadvantage. Apple never fucking invented a single goddamn thing.
Yeah.
They
just packaged it nicely.
No, they took things that were tried and tested, and they went, okay, this was a surprising success, but here were the issues. So then they patch those little issues, and before someone can do a full follow-up, they're the 1.5 that looks shinier and doesn't have the issues of whatever anyone else's iteration was. You want to dip first mover disadvantage any time possible. So all these studios went into kind of a Mexican standoff as to... who was going to do a $1 million loss leader first?
Yeah, of course. So on that kind of note, let's move towards a bit of a wrap up because this typically on Before the Money, our wrap ups take forever anyway.
Oh, sorry. Then yes, if we're wrapping up, the thing that I should say, the story of how Proxy got fucking born. So, Comic-Con. That experience blew up, went amazing. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, everyone was paying a tremendous amount of attention to this camera and, who technically owned it. And it was a weird little three-way legal thing where it was, my concept but it had been constructed under the roof and by the engineers of this camera house on money and time from Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So who owned the intellectual property of this camera? So then we partnered with the camera house and offered Warner's at the time a preferential deal that said, hey, you don't need to try and buy it or fight for it outright. We'll continue to work on it and refine it, but we will always give you guys first preference. So if someone else wants to use it and you want to use it at the same time, you get it and you get mates rates. And long story made very, very short. They essentially said, yes, what's your company name? And I was like, fuck, we're a company now. And that was the start of it. Proxy. But it was Proxy VR back then. VR for virtual reality. Now it's VP for virtual production. But yeah, it was always Proxy for two reasons. Because we did this brand new first person stuff. Yeah. You were there by proxy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But also it was the first ever camera that you had this insane proximity. So proxy, blah blah blah.
Well, and like I feel like we could have another episode on your business currently as well.
That's yeah, we don't have time, but that's a whole other section.
Yeah.
It's insane that you like came into that opportunity basically by like taking interest in VR.
Yeah.
And then seeing things around you and then just put itself.
Yeah, I really shouldn't have told that story because that has nothing to do with anything I've done for years.
It's interesting because it got you to where you are.
Yeah, well, the last bit of VR that I did was this short film called The Peeler, and that's the one that went over to Cannes Film Fest and it ran a year at Fright Night. We did like a whole installation.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we got to we took over the Roxy Theatre and we put strapped people down to actual hospital gurneys because in the film you're strapped down to this gurney in this guy's crazy sort of warehouse.
Shit.
So when you watch the film, we physically strapped you down to an actual gurney and didn't tell you that we were going to fuck with you as the film went. So we had timers, little lights that go off at certain times so we knew what to do. So when a guy gets a buzz saw, like a big cement saw slammed through in front of you, we'd have attendants spraying water and people would scream and flip out with the blood splatter. When the gurney got moved, people would rattle it and move it. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, anyway, look, there is so much more to be done with VR. VR is an incredible medium. It just needs a couple years to cool off. It'll come around again, and hopefully it'll have the proper support and framework it needs.
VR is going to be the framework in which our reality is, how we spend our day to day in however long it takes. Like we are moving day by day, we are moving into the virtual world. Like I know lots of VR social games and stuff like that where people are spending so much time. Like they have literal friend groups, they have social circles that are dotted all around the world, but they meet up in these VR worlds and hang out. And it's becoming a huge thing, but like you said, it's that barrier to entry. Like there's those shitty little goggles you can put your phone up to your face and all that kind of stuff, but it just doesn't give you the experience.
And I tell you, that's one of the hardest things too, because whenever you're creating one of these experiences, you have to design it for the lowest common denominator watching it.
Yeah.
So there are mad headsets out there that have eyeball tracking and all this crazy, amazing controls. It's 4K, it's beautiful, it's rah, but nobody fucking has them. Mm-hmm. Then down there's ones that are, quite shitty and sweaty. You can only wear them for about 12 minutes before they start to fog up. You know what I mean? Are you then going, okay, we're going to make it for that, and it's got a button on the side you can interact with. So you go, yeah, you need the button. Yeah. But then the largest audience has a foldable cardboard thing that you tuck a phone into. So by saying, okay, we're going to have a button to control anything, you've chopped out the majority of that audience. I mean, sorry, they've got their little magnetic thing that, but you know what I mean? You need to design for the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
So many amazing things that you want to do get trimmed for the audience. But then by the time you reach the biggest audience, the thing that you're making isn't special anymore and no one really gives a shit and there's no real advertising to push it forward. Yeah. So it's, you need curation, you need channels, you need, you know.
And as VR grows as well, like it'll become way more of like most households have got a PlayStation or an Xbox.
Yeah.
Not many have got VR headsets, but it's definitely heading in the way that most.
But I mean, the bunch of VR games I've played are insane. They're the dopest shit in the world. You know what I mean? It's just if it was a little bit more accessible, it'd be everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bro. I really want to.
really want to wrap it up.
I don't want to. I can sit here for another hour and a half yet, if I'm being honest with you. But I appreciate the audience's time. They've tuned in, and if they're anything like us, they've been wrapped into that story.
I'm so sorry. We've been talking technical shit. I apologize. We should
amount of
ask me
negative
about Mad
reviews.
Max. They've blown us up and shit.
Yeah, well, actually, you might be able to fill in some information here, but I want to kind of know what advice you would give yourself when you were, say, whether you want to say leaving school or leaving university or something, getting out into the big bad world. Like, what would you tell yourself, having known what you know now?
Just start. Just go earlier. I mean, like, it's not like I was waiting for anybody. Like, I was always trying and I was always pushing, but I also kind of had an understanding that, particularly in film, you can't be 16 years old and have someone give you $2 million to make a script.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was always like, I spent a lot of time being like, okay, I'm doing my best, but I also have to understand that, you know, I'm not going to be able to achieve all of it now, so sort of keep it a steady clip.
Yeah.
And then the second I started doing that, a bunch of years disappeared real quick. And now I'm taking it in something like music and whatever else. You're seeing these 19-year-olds that are popping the fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize, thinking of it in a stable state, you can't do that with film. That's not happening in film, and that's my major industry that I'm in. But I also... I couldn't have changed it and made people take bigger ideas earlier. But the second that I started to be comfortable with the idea that, hey, maybe it'd just take some time before people did take ideas, time sped up like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm 25 now, and there's all the shit that I had that were absolute goals before 25 that I haven't got.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, just don't take your foot off the gas and don't let anybody else tell you what those goalposts are. And don't forget that nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Don't be shy. Don't be cautious that your thumb's sticking out. Just
don't be afraid to fail.
Just do it. Yeah.
And
but that, like that's the thing. Like, you need to ride a bike. You need to fall off the bike, and that's why so many people don't continue with film or any sort of really large personal creative endeavor that takes a long time. It's still a bike.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to fall off the bike. It just takes you a year to fall off the bike.
Yeah.
Your first thing that you make is going to be garbage, probably. And the next one too. Or take you a couple months to do a short film you really,
It'll be
really
better,
love.
but still not good enough.
100%. Like, you're never going to get on a bike and never fall off it.
Mm-hmm.
You still got to fall off the bike a bunch of times. This is just a bike that takes longer to fall off.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will be hurting from falling off a bike for a couple of years and go, I can't do this anymore. And they've only fallen off the bike 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, the only reason we started making any kind of good films was sheer process of elimination. We ran out of shit to make. You know what I mean? We made everything garbage under the sun.
And you find as well, like when, I'm speaking from personal experience here, after failing a few times, after releasing products that didn't do well, that took away my idealistic attitude of, if I just put effort in, it'll be all right, and forced me to kind of just... not in a sense of overthinking, but thinking about it critically and thinking about it from a perspective is like, all right, yes, I'm excited. That's awesome. And I want to use this excitement, but how can I best put this energy to work? You know, like you get so caught up in just getting it done and getting the excitement of getting something out. You lose track of what your overall goal is. And that comes from failing as well in a massive way.
Well,
Actually,
smart.
Hang on. If there's one thing I can add to that, that's not directly counter to that, but also like I wish I could have a bit of naivety back that I lost. I think if there's one thing I could add, there's always this story, and it's fucking fuzzy now because it's been a couple of years. But there were these NASA engineers, and it was this woman. She was trying to crack this problem for years and years. Couldn't get it. Was solving some issue, and this new guy joined the team. And he was completely idealistic and wanted to try all these things that they'd already tried, had all these really, really dumb suggestions. This story doesn't make a lot of sense if I don't have names and actual time frames, but go with the vibe.
Yeah, we'll pick it up.
Finally, after I think it was like 8+ years on this one problem, she quit. She was burnt out. She left. And I think about 6 months later, this guy cracked it. He did it. And he got a lot of the praise for it. And a lot of people went to her with this sort of sensationalist, hey, let's get a headline. Well, hey, are you upset? Did he steal your work? You know, do you feel ripped off? What's going on? Like trying to create a bit of a story there. And she just went, look, it was all of us, yeah, but he cracked it and I gave up. And I know exactly why he did it and why he was the only one that could have done it. And I went, why? And she said he had and I always remember this quote, a stubborn inability to perceive failure.
Okay.
No matter what, this guy could not imagine a version of it that didn't work. It'd just take a bit longer. But he
I
could
relate to
not
that.
imagine a version that didn't work. He had a stubborn inability to perceive failure. And if there's one thing that's gone on as I've gotten older, I've just seen more and more ways that everything could fail under the sun. And that makes you jaded and that closes you off. And if there's one thing that I wish I could have held on to, like I absolutely adopted when I was younger, and I would have tried to keep a better eye on, it's never lose that stubborn inability to perceive failure. Because you can be wrong and you can fall on your face, but get back up.
Yeah.
You'll always run longer and reach harder than...
Yeah, if you've got the stamina, you can find the right answer.
Yeah, as long as you genuinely believe it's gonna, like, if you start going, well, this won't work before it's over, you're already in trouble.
Yeah. And you can't tell a kid that they can't do something too. Like, that's what I feel like a lot of people lose as they get older. Like those kids that dream, like, I want to be this, I want to be that. Try to tell that kid in that moment that they can't be a firefighter.
I'll tell you what, I think I might have Rice Bubbles to thank for some of my attitude.
Okay.
I'm serious. Shout out Rice Bubbles. Thank you. There was this competition. I was living in Byron Bay. I was this little kid. My parents would laugh their ass off at this one. They still do. There was this competition where 1 in 1,000 boxes of Rice Bubbles, if you sent in a ticket, 1 in 1,000 boxes won a Pokedex. And it was literally just like a much worse Tamagotchi. It was trash and came down the street. It was horrible. But I saw this and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to send this ticket and get a free Pokedex. And they were like, no, that's not how it works. It's 1 every 1,000. I was like, yeah, I'm going to send it in. They're going to give me a Pokedex. I can just tell I'm going to win. And they're like, that's not how these things work. And sent it off. And for like 2 weeks, I was just checking the mail for my Pokedex. I was certain it was coming. And they're like, this isn't a thing. They were like, they were sweet. They were sweet. They weren't just like, fuck off. They were sweet. They were trying to like, not let me be too excited. Like, are you going to be okay? Well, maybe it will.
There's a chance you might not win.
And exactly.
Yeah.
And sure enough, what showed up? This motherfucking Pokedex showed right up. And the second I got this thing, I was like, knew it. And that, and that probably fueled all of my creative bravado for the next several years. No actual knowledge, no talent. I'm just still coasting off the high of this Rice Bubbles Pokedex.
It's just been a free fall from that point on.
I'm trying to like slow the descent from my Rice Bubbles.
Put your arms
my
out.
big Rice Bubbles win.
Oh, wow. There's so many questions I could ask you, Harrison, because like you're someone that's experienced a lot and you've put your neck out there in so many different avenues.
I feel like I've ranted about the technical stuff for too long. Let's chat some practical, exciting shit.
Well, I mean, the technical stuff, it wasn't too technical. Like, I wasn't yawning.
I was following
Yeah.
it. That's the thing. Like, I lose myself and stuff like that, but I was there the whole time.
Yeah, we've got Reese, so we're How on earth is someone that is just getting started, or maybe like, let's put ourselves in my shoes when I was in school, right? I had big dreams. I knew whatever I was going to do was going to be big and I wanted to do it on my own accord. But I had no clue what I wanted to do. I didn't really understand what I was good at. I just knew that I was willing to do anything. So how does someone like build out the mindset or the frame of mind to then just go and try a bunch of shit?
So when you say you do anything, do you mean like you have a specific goal and you do anything to reach that, or do you mean you do
I would do
a bit
anything,
of just about anything that made you feel creative?
How do I put this? I would do anything is to get myself to whatever I was envisioning as success at that point in time. But the roadblock I had is I didn't know what got me truly excited. I knew I loved creating stuff, but my problem was I would get myself caught into these things like, oh yeah, website project, cool. I like creating stuff. I get halfway through the project, I'm like, I fucking hate this. I don't even want to take this person's money anymore. Get me out of this. But in the beginning, I was so excited by...
I'm terrible with that.
Yeah.
But that's just discipline. Like, if you sign up for something, you can not have to do it again, but you got to finish what you start. And if you say you're going to do something, you got to do it. So it's like, if you're going to dabble with web design, like, nothing is the pretty sexy version that we hear that it is. like everyone gets to see the sexy parts of the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if we talk about something, we're talking about what was dope or what really, really worked. You know what I mean? Like you look at a club promoter and you think they're probably out, bottle service. Oh, that's their whole world. It's bottles and clubs and these girls and whatever else. I guarantee you those motherfuckers are miserable. They're pulling their hair out.
We had a
really
good chat with our friend Zach, who was the host at Bedroom for quite a while.
I bet you he's got some stories and some great hairs.
We got some. Episode number 12, was it? Episode number 12, I think it was his.
Earlier than that.
Anyway.
People talk about these jobs leading with the sexy.
Yeah.
It's never, ever, ever going to be all the sexy. And particularly the more creative what you're doing is, the less sexy there is.
So how would someone go about finding what it is that gets them fired up?
Oh, they're the only one that can answer that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've just got to ask yourself, what are you interested in? What do you actually like doing?
It's a very complicated question for a lot of people.
My answer for that would be you would just have to be mindful. Yeah. It's like try different things and put yourself in different positions and be mindful about how they make you feel.
Yeah, and we're in this world right now where you can do so many more things you ever used to. I remember, like, we'd be young and we'd be like, people are like, what do you like doing? I really like playing video games. They're like, okay, but what's your real job? There's fucking Twitch streamers now who make more than any one of us three in this room combined. Their whole job is playing video games. You can do whatever. It's just a matter of figuring out how to make that happen.
How to monetize it.
So it is, and it's not just monetize, it's market and it's proliferate. But like, you can do absolutely anything. Just don't go, well, I feel like out of these options, I don't like any one of them. Which one do I hate the least? Stop and really ask yourself, what do you want to be doing? Like when you don't have to work, when you're completely alone and it's late at night and you can't sleep, what are you doing? You know? And
what are you thinking about?
If you're watching a bunch of Netflix, fucking go be a critic. Like you can do anything. There's no such thing as like, we can do anything that we want. Anything that we want at all. And it would be better that if what you're doing isn't working out and you aren't happy, then it's better that you aren't happy and you're fucking up at least doing a thing that you would rather be doing. You know what I mean? You gotta take the swing and you have to jump. Sense. You have to take the jump to do it. You will never be able to like half do it while you're doing everything else that's safe and day to day. You gotta jump.
Burn the boats.
Try not to burn anything, but politically, you need every bridge. Trust me, because
have you heard the saying when Tony Robbins talks about it? If you want to take an island, burn the boats behind you.
That's a good saying.
Yeah,
that's a good saying because you can't turn around.
Yeah,
hearing that's the first time I've heard that said out, but I realized that that's how my whole life has gone. It's just like again, like you getting your Pokedex. I was talking to my partner about this the other day because like. I'm a chiller to a fault, and it puts me in some pretty shitty positions sometimes, but like I was saying to her the other day, like I get through it because the whole way through it, I just know that it's going to get better. Even when it's getting worse, I'm like, no, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And like, because we came about this conversation because I had a situation change in my life, and she just came up to me. She was like, shit just works out for you. How? Like why do you always get what you want? Doesn't matter what happens, you always end up getting what you want. It's like, because I just fucking know I will. At the end of the day, don't know how long it's going to be, but I just know.
You're willing to withstand the winter.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. For me,
I was born in winter.
As long as you got a plan, I'm right. You know what I mean? Like I can eat shit all day as long as I know that eating shit is steps 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, and then it's a 7 and there's an 8. Like it can go as long as you have something you're trying to do. You know where you want to be going. You're not just bopping along. You go, I want to be doing more of this. How's it going to get better? And you're not just letting yourself blow around. You can go through really shitty dips and you can have a bad time and it can hurt, but it's fine because it's part of a plan. You're on the rails. The rails aren't always going somewhere nice, but they're going.
They're moving forward.
Exactly.
On that note, where is Harrison going?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Trying to get features out now that I'm writing and will ideally direct. We didn't really talk about stunt stuff, but I'm working toward doing stunts on the new Mad Max. We've been doing some action design stuff. We've sort of done all the action design with George and virtual camera work with our company now, and the whole separate bubble we haven't even touched. we're quite a way through pre-planning all the action for the new Mad Max, and it's insane. It's incredible. Last one took place over 3 days. This one takes place over 3 decades. Wow. And fuck me, it's absolutely wild. Mad Max Furiosa. Wow. It's going to be a big one.
So when you say it takes place over 3 days, like that's the span in which the story unfolds.
Fury Road, the last one, was across 3 days. This one's over 3 decades.
Yeah, wow.
And it makes the last one look like a bunch of kids playing in a sandpit. So it's big. It's big. So it's stunt work for that, along with the action design that we've done, and we'll continue to do. Writing my own stuff with an eye to finally direct it. We'll see when we can make that happen.
Because that's where your heart really is pulling you towards, isn't it?
Oh, I've always wanted to write and direct my own films, big time. Running the company and doing other films with it, developing some of my own stuff with it. I'm currently working on the first 15 minutes of an original. It's called 3 Nights in Nam Yong, and that shit is absolutely wild. It's a hyper-violent, really dark action buddy comedy that is a beautiful mess. It starts with our 2 guys that have to steal the heart out of an open chest surgery and get away from the hospital with it in a giant chase, and it's a lot of fun. There's I guess I'll summarize. Working the company and doing additional films.
Yep.
Continuing working on the new Mad Max, both as a stuntman and doing all this action design and camera design. Working on 3 Nights in Nam Yong, my original thing, which is wild. Trying to eventually trying to direct some of these features. Working on this game, and also now music, because I hate sleep apparently.
Don't we all? Amazing. And where can our audience find you, Harrison?
Don't.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, guys. This has been Before the Money. What's your Instagram? Very ready?
Very ready. Yeah, I'm very ready on Instagram.
Yeah. He's always fucking raring to go.
Clearly.
Awesome, guys. Really appreciate you hanging around. This has been a long one, but very well warranted. So much love, guys. Really do appreciate your time. I hope you got something from this episode. If you did, please take a quick screenshot, post it somewhere, send it to a friend, send it to your grandma. Whatever you want to do, share it, because it really does help. It helps us get our message out there, and we are trying to push a really positive message.
If not, please don't be upset.
Exactly. So appreciate it, guys. Anarchylabel.com. Come check it out. We got some really amazing stuff on there. V.BLVQ. You can find him on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. Go and delight your ears.
Fucking go.
I'm going to interrupt his plug with a double plug.
Go for it.
That hoodie that he's wearing, it's ridiculous.
It is.
I stole one off the racks because I was cold last time I was here, and I promised I'd pay for it. The second it was on my body, I knew it wasn't ever going to come off. It's incredible.
And this one doesn't. This one's actually morphed to my skin now.
That's incredible.
This is your last chance to switch over to the YouTube and check out this hoodie.
I have to say, though, they are genuinely... I was really, really, really surprised by the quality as soon as I put it on. I'm sorry for the little verbal hand job here. Those are fucking.
Hey, I haven't received anything in a matter of months, man. So I'll take whatever I can get.
Turn off the cameras.
Physical, whatnot.
But seriously, I am a.
This is your last chance to get over to YouTube. Hand job happening live right now. Last chance to get over to YouTube.
Catch us on the Before the Money OnlyFans.
What has this show become? Love you guys. Before the Money. Appreciate it. Good night. Oh, fuck. What a riot. Thank you, sir.
No worries, mate.